Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom.
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, Mike and Bennett are sitting down to talk about D-Day. Like the landing of Normandy, which happened on Tuesday, June 6th. Well, excuse me, the anniversary was on Tuesday, June 6th, 2017. And,
but it happened June 6th, 1944.
Right. Yes. And it's one of these things where, you know, we have Memorial Day, and Memorial Day, of course, touches on a special chord because it's when, you know, it's like Remember Your Dead Friends Day. I mean, that's basically what I remember as Memorial Day. And those who sacrificed and came before. But especially June 6th, I think of D-Day. And the balls that it would take to go headlong into MG-44 fire in the surf on the beaches of France. You know, no passport needed kind of a deal. And, yeah, lay hate and discontent to the crowds. So, which of course, you hear all of these different crazy-ass stories where it's like, bro, there's no cover on the beach. You're using your boy as a parapet, essentially. You know, it's like, oh boy got T-boxed, and now you're just using his buddy, but you got to keep moving. That's the key. Right. That's crucial. You need to keep moving. Don't, bound to cover or whatever, but don't fucking sit there. Jesus.
I mean, you realize how many people were considered a part of the D-Day invasion? Do you know the number on it?
No, not off the top of my head. I mean, you can clack away and hop on Wikipedia.
It's about 150,000.
Jesus, dude.
Just on the Ally side.
5-paragraph
order. The German
order.
side, yeah. The German side, I'm not positive. But it was a lot there too, obviously.
Well, it's like,
but it wasn't that many. It wasn't 150. It's probably like 40, 50,000, but still.
Yeah.
Heavily fortified.
Right. I mean, giant. Dude, when I think about the German war machine at that time, you know, that the Nazi party invigorated. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. I mean, these massive, gigantic concrete structures that you're going up against. You know, and folks, an MG-42 is the fastest firing single barrel crew serve man-made, you know, weapon system that is still in existence. It still has that claim to fame. You know, multi-barreled systems operate differently. They're faster, higher rate of fire. This is a single barrel. I believe it's open bolt. I want to say it's open bolt. But you've heard them before. That, you know, that just...
Yeah, it's fucking horrible.
Jesus, man. Going up against that... I can't even do it. You know what I'm saying? It's just that, like, barking sound coming after you. Which is why the guy with the flamethrower was awesome. It's like, yeah, dude, do justice. Let's do that. You should light those fuckers on fire. Here's some fire for you. Spray your house full of gasoline, you sons of bitches. But, you know, it's a war. Ugh. You know?
Mm-hmm.
You just, we were talking about this earlier. How, like, you know, I'd seen a dead body before I joined the Marine Corps, but then when I wound up going to Ramadi, it was the first time that I saw mass casualties. And I mean, the thought of mass casualties brings just a fucking gut-wrenching chill. Because we definitely responded to mass casualty calls.
Yeah.
Which it's like the glass factory. You know, we were talking about this earlier. The Ramadi glass factory. One day it blew up.
Right.
Guy hopped in, waist belt, boom, 40 plus gone. And thank God I was a driver. Oh my God, dude. Thank God I was a driver. My buddy comes back to the truck just like knee deep in filth and yuck. You know, and what do? Well, and it harkens back to D-Day, because, and the reason why I thought of this is because, one, the litters that they were using to carry the dead are, I mean, ours are made out of netting instead of canvas. Okay, cool. But the pulled litter really hasn't changed all that much.
Right.
And it's like, what do you do? What do you do with parts of bodies? You know? Like, there's grave sites that are over there in Normandy. And there are also, I mean, they're really, I want to use the term cool because I'm into that sort of thing, but they're an honorable final resting place for the dead that's over there. But that was when I realized, like, okay, that bongo truck over there is where you put those parts, and then that bongo truck those, and you know, just whatever. We'll just keep all those together. They've been blown to smithereens. So, you know, you're not playing the matching game at that point. You're not trying to piece Bill back together or anything. You're just, all right, you know, like, fuck, man. You know, so you think about it.
Yeah.
You think about, dude, how many lives were lost on June 6th? And now, I mean, what is it? It's the 7th right now, right? It's D1. Can you imagine? Like, okay, you made it through the beach landing.
Right.
It's the night of June 7th, 1944. Fuck.
I mean, there was a simultaneous freaking landing at 5 separate beachheads.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. Plus airborne, which was a fucking disaster, but you know what I mean?
There's somebody out there running through all of their, like, fist tables right now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, damn, dude, I could coordinate that. Carry the one? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we always talk about Omaha and Utah, but mainly Omaha Beach, right? You know? That's the big daddy.
Right.
Right, because it's us. But you also had Gold, Juno, and Sword. And I don't remember the layout. Utah was mainly the Brits, I think, right? Or was that Americans as well?
I believe
Jesus.
that it was part American on there as well.
Which that was Omar Bradley shit, the American zone.
No.
With 7 Corps.
Well, and I brought it.
You know, 7th Corps was at Utah Beach, which was, yeah. All right, so 7th Corps was at Utah Beach, and that was the 4th ID, 4th Infantry Division, 82nd Airborne, 90th Infantry Division, and the 101st, okay, Airborne. And Omaha was 5th Corps, which was 1st Infantry Division and the 29th Infantry Division. Somewhere in excess of 73,000 troops. That was who hit the beach. And then there was like 15,000 airborne who all jumped in, bro.
God damn.
God. Which you hear all the nightmares of them missing landing zones.
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything. That's a lot of fucking parachutes in the sky, bro.
Dude, yeah. Well, and I mean, of course, I would be remiss without bringing up Band of Brothers, which...
Yeah, just a kick-ass fucking show.
You know, they're different. Band of Brothers and Pacific are different. Pacific being more Marine-based and jumping around and everything else. Completely different cast, crew, and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Band of Brothers hits a different edge for me.
Yeah, well, that's first of the 506, right?
Yes.
It is. And that was the boys that were in Ramadi with you.
Yes.
That was the only Army guys in your little city there.
Yes, it
was. Your little devil's playpen while you were there.
Whether or not it was easy company, we used to joke around about that. That was something.
It wasn't.
I know.
Bravo. Well, it was, yeah. Anyway, it wasn't easy.
Well, it was funny because Ramadi was a fucking crazy place, dude. It was one of those places where, you know, it was one of those places where you would look around at night and you would see fires burning. And, yeah, you you're looking through urban streets and you don't typically see fires burning like that. It's just an otherworldly place. It's something that's strange. But I bring it up because there was one time where some Bradleys caught on fire, and it was just crazy. It was intense. It was one of those things where they were going through our AO, and they just wrong place, wrong time. Boom, somebody nailed them. It was bad. It was ugly, and it was one of those where it was like, no, you can't go in. You know, it's not like you have one guy out there like, oh, super marine. You know, our section is bombing around Normandy, and they got hit. We were in support at the time. We were basically screaming around, but they were like, we can't do anything. The rounds are just cooking off inside of there. If we approached, you know, it's a completely different story. You're screwed. When that happened, the army kind of like, just the units that were operating around Normandy at that time, because there were certain AOs, you know, like Buckeye and Nova ran on the north and the south respectively, and then you had Route Michigan that ran down the middle. So down to the south was like Army AO, and off to the east, like over to Saddam's.
Yeah.
See, one of my buddies, he was one of those dudes. He was on the opposing wrestling team, like the crosstown rival wrestling team, and we always somehow found each other like in the same bracket or whatever. The guy was a hoss. And he whooped my ass numerous times before. But anyway, I had gotten back from Ramadi after my first tour, and I saw Ben. I'll leave his last name out of it, but I saw him at this weird my other buddy Ben, those two, Jesus Christ, whenever they got together, they came up with the craziest party ideas. They had a beach party in the basement, which was like a shit show. Let me tell you what. I mean, you just have an entire basement full of sand. Picture that one, bro.
Right.
And everybody is fucking wasted. Like, hey, there's nobody here that's older than 24. You know, anyway. So I saw Ben, and he was rocking one of those old school flax, like the Vietnam era.
Right. Yeah, well, shit. It's basically what I wore.
Yeah, well, it's what we wore in boot camp with the shoulder flaps and shit like that.
Yeah, man. Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
crazy.
man.
Fuck.
And
Dumbest things ever.
Oh, yeah. So I saw him, and he was hanging out and doing whatever, and we were doing this. You know, hey, man, where were you? Where'd you surf? You know, we were just kind of like sharing sea stories, and it came up. We were in Ramadi at the same time. It was the beginning of my first tour. It was the end of his first tour. And he was on a slow roll, like a screening mission, and they were sensitive, whatever, so they needed to keep going. ID goes off. He gets ejected out of the vehicle. They had to keep rolling. They just kind of had to. He comes to in the street, bleeding to death with shrapnel all up and down his legs and his stomach and everything else, and starts doing work with his pistol, dropping dudes at distance and all sorts of shit. Like, guys are coming up to him, and he just keeps shooting Hajis, you know, with a pistol. And gets shot himself several times in the torso, and winds up, you know, losing enough blood to where he passes out. Well, it turns out, I want to say it was Lima Company, was over in that stretch of the AO and reacted on a QRF call because they were just out there looking for a fight anyhow. And so they rolled up on him and gunned down all the, you know, Hodge that were trying to come after him. Lo and behold, put him on a CAS-evac. Through Charlie Medical on the other side of the AO. They drove him all the way across the AO. And this fucker lived. Like, just bombing ass all the way down Buckeye. Like, QRF! Which is it sucks because you're driving somebody, you know, to the hospital. But at the same time, I mean, that's the only time. When you're screaming QRF or your gunner screaming QRF, you can literally do whatever you want as a driver. So long as you get there. That's it. That's all that they tell you. At least my VC. So I just... What? And it doesn't matter. Just jump that fucker. You know, like, we're on QRF. We have to get there. And so they took his ass back over to Charlie and patched him up and everything else. And I mean, He told me this whole story and pulled open his flak, and it was just fucking mangled. It was bad. And he was all recovered. I mean, convalescence was over. You know, while I was on tour, he was healing up in hospital. Took him like 6 months. Can you believe that shit?
Jesus.
All them bullets and everything else, that all missed his spine and everything. I mean, this is like some fucking true American hero shit, which I hinted that I would love to have him on the show, but I don't know if he's there yet. So I just kind of share that story because it was one of those where I think about it all the time. I think about it all the time when we do our show. I'm like, fuck, man, that's such a good sea story. But it's one of those where it's like, I'm not there yet. I don't know if I want to talk about this, you know? And, which I don't blame him, dude, taking that much 7.62 to the torso.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, and by the grace of God, he didn't have all of the extra shit, you know, that comes along with it. He just had mangled abs. He didn't have, you know, colostomy and all of this other godforsaken
shit.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, you think about that shit every once in a while and you're like, fucking stop it. No. You know, like no, fuck that. We're going to go outside the wire and, you know, we're going to eat a fucking bullet or something like that, or we're going to make it home. You know, you don't really think about a lot of those other different things. And I mean, I'm just like counting my blessings, saying my prayers, fucking knocking on wood, you know, just, ugh. Especially right after Ramadi won. And then I was like, okay, I'm out of Ramadi. Yay, now I'm going to gear up for, which I was happy. I wanted to gear up for Afghanistan. Dude, I'm telling you, man, the only thing in the Marine Corps that ever sucked for me, really, was the separation.
Uh-huh.
That was it, dude. It made it so that I couldn't enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
I know that that's messed up, but there are times where it's like, I enjoyed going to Bridgeport. I enjoyed going on field ops sometimes. You know, that shit was cool. Not storming the beaches in Normandy. I mean, see, that's the thing, man, is like, what we did, I'm going to use the term post 9/11, which I plan on joining the Marine Corps anyhow, and then that motherfucker flew planes in my building, so it was like, all right, it's time to go. Right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
But it's one of those things where I honestly believed when I joined the Marine Corps that I would have some time off. I didn't realize that I was going to get all my weekends off the way that I did. I didn't realize that when we went overseas, like I knew obviously when I was at Boot and they told us that it was going to be a 7-month tour or whatever, you know, or maybe I learned that in boot camp or SOY or some shit like that. But I honestly believed when I signed up for the Marine Corps and went in, and I thought that I was pretty well educated. I honestly thought that I was signing up to get trained and then just deploy and not come home until the war is over. Like, that's what I thought I was getting myself into. And I was totally cool with that. And then and then it was like, no, we do 7 months, and then we rotate back. And then, you know, when we rotate back, you're going to be out in the field the entire fucking time. So enjoy that. And it's like, dude, just put me in war. I'm okay with cross-stacking over. But, you know, family, you know?
Family and all.
Family, friends, advisors, mentors who inspire and lift you up. Family.
Sitting there looking at a naval map of the D-Day invasion.
Fuck yeah.
Holy fuck, bro.
5-paragraph order.
Yeah, 5-paragraph order. So, bottom line is this. You had all the fucking land troops, right? The landing.
Yeah.
The people that they're putting on the beach. But you also had 195,000 naval personnel.
It's insane.
So the invasion fleet was drawn from 8 different navies, comprised 6,939 vessels. 1,213 of those were warships. 4,120 Is that right? 4,126 landing craft. Are you fucking kidding me?
I can't. Yeah.
4,000 plus landing craft. 700 ancillary craft, and then like 800 merchant vessels. The majority of the fleet was supplied by the UK. But available to fleet, so you had 5 battleships, which for like that many battleships to be in one place, that's a fucking lot.
Yeah.
You know, 20 cruisers, and cruisers were just about as, they just didn't have as much armor, but firepower wise, they carried almost as much firepower as a battleship. And then you had 65 destroyers, and they were just like running in a so the map that I'm looking at just shows like the runways that they would basically, the bomb, what do they call them? There's a name.
See, it's like
the bombarding ships, right? So they've got the bombardment pathways. So they would roll just in line. They would roll one after the other in like a big like oval thing, right?
Yeah.
And just bombard the shit out of the beachheads and the different positions. Just fucking them up.
And then you've got submarines.
Yeah, you had a couple, but there wasn't very many.
Right. It's just, they're out there.
They had a couple of U-boats. The Germans did, but...
Of course they did, you Nazi bastards.
And then the fucking bombardment from the air. This is Air Force or Navy bombardment. 2,200 British, Canadian, and American bombers attacking targets along the coast and further inland. 2,200.
It's nuts, dude.
Dropping fucking bombs, bro.
See, that's the thing. Like,
it makes like people see like, all right, so it's one thing, like the invasion of Iraq was something serious. Both of them,
right?
Let's be honest. That is like what, as invasion forces go over the past, like, since Vietnam, what has there been? You know what I mean? Like, single action. Here we are. We're going to war. 100,000 or however many people were invading Iraq. I mean, shit. Schwarzkopf had 1 million. Right. You know what I mean? Right? So, but it still didn't even come up to the scale, it seems like, at least aircraft wise and all that shit. It was just like, what a logistical, I mean, holy hell.
Oh, yeah.
And think they're using like wire band radios and shit. Like could you imagine communication back in that day?
No, I can't.
It was they're still doing smoke signals and shit.
Well, and I've said this before. It's weird.
The Navy was using flags and stuff still.
Right.
I mean, they did have radios. I'm not, but it wasn't the same.
Well, and it's like I'm almost quasi jealous in a way of having a beachhead, having something as evil as Nazism to fight. Because we see it in modern times. We see the villainy that's around us. You know what I mean? Like the devout to Sharia and so on and so forth. And like kill the infidel and blah, blah, blah.
It is, but it's still not like a force that's standing in front of you.
It's
like
not right.
It's not like, it's not the Germans lined up on the freaking on a battle line and like, let's go. Well, even when Saddam had the fourth largest army in the world, it still wasn't like that. It didn't turn out that way.
Well, and it's in post World War II, with communism being the way that it is, they kind of vilified the Iron Curtain in a similar fashion, but it's not the same way that fascism and Nazis were like that evil, super genius technology, jet fighter, big gun shit.
This way too. The Germans, those motherfuckers could fight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, the Germanic people is, by and large, I mean, have a historical background as warriors.
Of course.
And
but
through
the
their
German army, those motherfuckers could fight. Like, they weren't conscripted,
right,
pissed off jihadis.
Right.
They're just fucking, like, these motherfuckers
well-trained.
were like, they're gonna fight for the motherland. That's it. You know what I mean?
Right.
We just, you know, I can't
Yeah.
remember. I was listening to a recording the other day. It wasn't on the 6th, but they were talking. They had recordings of this, like, German. It was the Tiger tanks, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the Tiger tank commander was talking about, and it was all in German but translated. It was pretty freaking cool. And they were talking to him about how, this was after the war, obviously.
Right, yeah.
How the German technology was so much more advanced, and that a Tiger tank was better than 10 Sherman tanks.
Right. That's why we brought 12.
Right, and that's why we brought 11 Shermans.
Right.
And that's what he said. He's like, what it was is, like, I would sit there in my tank and kill 10 Shermans, but then there's always like 3 more that would pop up from behind a fucking berm somewhere, you know,
right.
And they'd fucking end up killing my tanks or whatever. But it was just like mosquitoes. We just piss pounded them into submission.
Right.
Now, though, what's kind of funny is, like, I look at, you know, like, remember when we had the little conflict with Russia and Georgia? It wasn't us. It was when Russia went into Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
What was that, like 2-3 years ago? And the whole Crimean thing. And
yes.
You had that whole kind of hubbubalub at that point, right? But I'm sitting there looking at, all right, so they're talking about, now this is the media, of course,
sure.
And their ultimate idiocy, but they're talking about the elite forces of the Russians going in to Georgia, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm watching their tanks roll in, and I'm looking at the kits
right
that are on these guys, and I'm like, these guys are a fucking joke.
Right. And that was what they put in front of the media.
Right. I'm like, these guys are a fucking joke. Like, you look at you can tell a lot by a kit. You just can.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to deny the Russians aren't some hard bastards. We did some work with the Russians in Bosnia. Those motherfuckers are hard asses.
Right.
They really are. I mean, they train a different way. I'm not saying that they're not hard. The problem is that American troops, for the most part, are hard, but we also have good gear or good equipment and good training. So you kind of need the whole package. And I think you saw that, especially in fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, that American forces, for the most part, we're the premier fighting force in the world.
Oh, yes, very much.
Even though there's a lot less of us, it's like, you know, it's one of those things. There's a lot less of us than a lot of other countries have. But then I laugh when I look at their gear and I'm like, okay, or the tactics that they use. Like, that was one of the funniest things I ever saw in my life, is watching the jihadis at their training camps.
Oh God, yeah, bouncing around in their PJs.
Bouncing around in their PJs. With
yeah.
It's like, dude, you realize the AK has sights, right?
Oh, dude, yeah.
right? Isn't
Yes.
that the
I mean,
funniest
I know exactly what you're talking about.
so many times, like whether it's in like sub-Saharan Africa where they're fighting or whatever, you very rarely see anyone aim an AK.
Dude, this is no bullshit. I asked my cops to sight in and just sight in however they thought they needed to sight in. And one of my guys sighted in sideways. Right? Sideways. He literally sighted in down the charging handle. No bullshit. Sighted in down the charging handle.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, why do you fucking do that? And I thought he would just be like, oh, you know, whatever, some dumbass thing. The guy was wearing like 3 watches at the same time.
Right.
He dropped down into the prone so fast and laid flat with his AK on the prone and showed how he looked from his charging handle in between the gas tube and the barrel. And that was what he was using basically as a reverse single post in the rear, dual sight plane in the front. And he was hitting targets at like, 50 yards or whatever. That's all you need. That's all you need. You drop into the prone with an AK-47 and start gassing with it sideways because you got the banana hanging out the bottom. I couldn't fucking believe it, how some of these... And then you tell them to get into the kneeling, and they're like, no, I can't do that. Okay, you do your kneeling. So then they showed me their kneeling, and they squat right down. Right? They squat and point their toes into the dirt. Not only could they hit targets, I still do it to this day. Do you know why they did it? I thought I was like, you fucking, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, this is some tribal shit or whatever.
Right.
When you do that, first and foremost, you're a little bit stable. Granted, you're not as stable as putting your knee down. Those feet are going to stay in the same place. You have the ability to spread your weight against your thighs, and it limits your overall footprint, literally speaking, so that you don't step on an IED.
Oh, my Lord.
So if you drop to a knee, that's a third point of contact, more area you could potentially hit an IED. So we started doing it where we adopted a TTP to where it was like, as you go through and you hit an IED or something, you observe, orient yourself, but then you would drop, otherwise to cover a knee or something. But you wouldn't necessarily squat, don't get me wrong, especially in kit, sometimes. But you would basically pivot on the balls of your feet so that you don't hit an ID.
Jesus.
Yeah, walking around in Ranger file. Dude, I'm telling you, bro. I've been in Ranger file and hit an IED in the open, and it ain't fun. Been on 2 of them. And then found an IED, started to egress, and they backplanted. Cocksuckers. Okay, so now you're basically like, what a predicament. Like, I got a little pickle here. All right, so basically there's a river and a cornfield that we could cross right now, or to our right, we've got an ID, and to the left, we've got an ID. Confirm, clear, Gordon, control, call. All right, yep. Boys, crack out your field strip, like MRE or whatever, and we're fucking waiting for EOD to come out here. Because unless you want to walk, all the way around it. And what I loved about those moments, though, is you punch out perimeter security, and your perimeter security usually stumbles on somebody. Because perimeter security they don't have to travel down the same paths. You already know that. You know what I'm talking about. They don't travel down the same deer trails that a fucking patrol does in order to hide our numbers. But totally different ball game, man. I'm telling you. That and cornfields. When the corn starts to get high, it's not the jungle. I'll tell you that much. It's not the jungle. But they're not shooting 22 caliber long rifle at you either. I mean, you're talking about 7.62 by 5.4 rim will rip through cornfield. Yeah. So different ball game. But I often thought of the guys who landed on D-Day because they had rice rice paddies kind of deal in Afghanistan, but also they had cornfields that reminded me of the like wayward kind of patchwork quilt Irish landscape, or
Okay,
the French landscape.
Smaller fields, not like big, expansive ones like we have here.
Right. And it's not, they don't have the same technologies, and nothing's on a grid over there. It's just kind of like, you fan it.
All by the terrain.
Right. But I'm telling you right now, man, these people are brilliant when it comes to agriculture, because they figure out how to irrigate all of that stuff in between. And so what they do is the Helmand River funnels off into a chute, and then at given points in time during the day, there's a rotation where the farmer goes out and breaks the levee of the levee of the farmer before, which is just dirt, and then he levees the farmer before, and then he breaks his own levee in order to allow irrigation into his own part of the fields. And they have a very intricate system of irrigation that comes directly off the Helmand River. And you heard soldiers talk about a similar irrigation system being employed in France, which was such a nightmare to go through, because you would just all of a sudden be going along on a hardball road, but you can't go that path anymore. The enemy has broken you down. Well, it looks like green grass. You're like, that's green grass over there. But then you take off and it's nothing but soup. It's mud.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And you look around and you go, that's green. That's a green hillside or whatever. No, it's those little blades of grass that's coming up through about, no shit. It's coming up through about 1.5 to 2 foot of mud. You step into it and you're fucked. You're not going anywhere. Good luck taking cover.
I love hearing those stories about the French hedgerows.
Yes.
And just what a fucking pain in the ass.
Yes.
That landscape was, and the freaking how like the channeling effect of those, and how many. Oh,
that's Afghanistan. That is Sangin.
Right.
That's Sangin. Because that's exactly what those fuckers do. And you would too. Think about how many times you turn the map around and try to figure out how to kill yourself.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right,
so,
exactly.
How would I hit this soft, weak sauce, target that is me right now? And dude, I'm telling you, man, they would channelize you. They get you going down one path and you note it. You're like, motherfucker, fuck that. Screw that. Go checkpoint 4. No, tell you what, go checkpoint 4, Charlie. Fuck the whole route. We're scrubbing it. And I would literally just call back. Whole route, scrub. We're going to go route 4. I would submit 4 or 5 routes. Because you would just all of a sudden happen upon something and you're like, no, fuck that. Why did you put a fresh dropped tree limb right across this beautiful little spot in the creek? Why'd you do that? Why did you give me a bridge, you dirty fuck?
Yeah.
And then what happens?
There's a goddamn mortar.
Right.
Fucking,
it rolls off the rock.
On the other side, right?
Right.
You're fucked.
Dude, and you want to know something that's even worse? Is when it rolls off the rock, it hits the pressure switch down in the bottom of the river, which is covered with feces, and you didn't realize that. They put it inside of a shit ditch. So now you got to step across that bitch. It rolls over a rock, and boom. And we're like, no, dude, I don't give a fuck. I'd rather change my camis after this than try to go across that shit. And my guys, I'm sure that they were cursing me when we were on patrol on some of those. Dude, and I'm telling you, man, I was sketchy as fuck, especially from Kajaki, because we were rolling around up there, and it was just like anything could be a mortar or an IED. It could be anything, or excuse me, a mine or an IED. And Jeremy looks at me one day while we were on a patrol, and he's like, whoa, bro, you gotta be so sketch. I'm like, dude, fuck that.
Christ,
and and we had a good long sea story conversation about his way up to Kajaki, and they faced hell on their way up there. He was like, you weren't fucking around, man. Kajaki was terrifying. Not terrifying, but it was one of those things where it was like, it was a fight. It was a real fight. So
to cap off this episode, one of my bucket list things is the Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial.
Yes,
to go to someday, because I have not been. 9,387 Americans that they know 307 unknown burials, but the total burials is 9,387 folks that perished in Normandy. All buried there, all Americans.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
And it's got what I think is cool about that, that's different than American, it's an American cemetery, obviously, but then our national cemeteries that either have plaques or they have the white headstones.
Yeah.
This one's all crosses or stars, depending on the religion.
Oh, it's like Arlington or whatever.
So it's either white crosses or it's got like a Star of David.
Star
Jewish.
Daniel, look at there.
So you have that one, and then I also would like to, because right around down the corner you've got the Canadian cemetery as well.
We gotta check out Bella Wood also.
Yeah, I mean, we kill a couple birds with one stone going that direction.
I say what we do is we get like a Myers-Manx dune buggy, hop in that much trucker.
Fucking dune buggy.
Dude, I'm gonna get a fucking dune buggy, bro.
Everyone, fucking Penny is obsessed with dune buggies now.
I'm gonna get one.
We'll talk about that on another episode.
We should. Jesus. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories. If you guys, if me and my fucking dune buggy, dude, if I had a dune buggy on D-Day, I would have stormed the beaches with you guys. Trust me, I would have been there.
Great.
I would have been there. You know, it happened like a couple of years before I was born. It was like 40 some odd something.
44. Something
like that. 42. But yeah, I mean, whatever. Thank you for storming the beaches in Normandy and securing freedom so that fucking fascist bastard, you know what I mean? You got him. Good on you, boys.
That little mustached rat bastard
son of
guy.
A bitch.
Dude, all right, so just last little cap on this whole fucking thing. How does a guy say the most superior race in the world is blonde-haired, blue-eyed?
Right.
But this fucker didn't have blonde hair or blue eyes. Just saying.
I would have been the guy who's standing there cross-armed, like what you see in the memes. Like, be that guy. I would have been that dude, like, no, fuck no. What are you guys doing over here? What are you raising your hand for? What? Which, by the way, used to be an American thing until the Nazis started to do it, and then we were like, we don't want to be like those guys.
Well, that's a Nazi thing.
That's what we used to do with the Pledge of Allegiance, supposedly. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that we stopped doing that, but I still don't put my hand. I do not put my hand over my heart. I stand at the position of attention, always ready to slay. You know what I mean?
You're such an ass. And your fucking dumbass dune buggies.
It's gotta be badass, dude. You're so jealous of my dune obsession. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to Cigars and Sea Stories. Please keep it up. Keep listening. Keep sharing. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Spartan Media. Thank you to veteranslist.us. Sign up. Get featured membership. Half off. Cigars and Sea. Go ahead. Do that time now. Thank you to Heroes Media Group. You guys rock. I mean, like, from Adam Bird, the network head, to our editor, and everyone in between. I mean, like, you guys are awesome. You're doing it.
Seriously, though, subscribe, rate, and review. Please. Go to iTunes, rate, and review the podcast. You'll be our best friends, I promise.
There you go. 5 stars are always appreciated.
Seriously.
Yes.
Please, we're begging you to go do it. Do it now.
He is. I don't beg for shit. He's begging you. I'll climb under the desk.
I'm just trying to be nice.
I'll climb under the desk. I'm giving out Hummers.
Do it. I'll do it.
Yes. And on that note, we cue the music.